imagine that coming from a dark room, I bring you one red ball, okay? And say I ask you the probability. Say I'm going to tell you, I'm going to go into the dark room again, and I ask you the probability. What is the probability I bring you another red ball, right? And the trick to the question is because you only have one example and you have no idea what else even could be in the black room, right? You only know 100% of the time what just happened. You can't make any judgment about the probability about what could
20
even
seconds.
happen next. So if you understand that example, you understand that any probability involving trillions or whatever fucking number he quoted is garbage. So
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So you've had your 1 minute. What you just said is pure garbage. Do you know who Dr. Eugene Koonin is?
I wasn't going to engage. I just corrected you.
Okay, Dr. Eugene Koonin is a world-renowned expert on microbiology and how it relates.
I'm not interested in
Hey,
the
wait,
timeline.
Phoenix, wait. Give him at least a minute. Go ahead.
Fair enough.
Now, Dr. Eugene Koonin is a world-renowned microbiologist, okay? And his expertise lies in how it relates to the theory of evolution. His level of scholarship is so high that when you look at the number of citations from his scholarly papers, it's off the charts compared to other scholars who are cited, in the field of biology. Okay, he's not a creationist; he's a staunch evolutionist. He wrote a whole book defending the theory of evolution and how it relates to biology. In the book, he specifically states several times that evolution happening in a one-off universe is vanishingly small. Those are his exact words. Now, he then says that what will rectify that situation of it being vanishingly small, that a many worlds in one mega or multiverse will then guarantee that a vanishingly small chance in a one-off universe won't happen. Okay? Now, when he says it's vanishingly small, you know, I know, and everyone knows, I could read you the direct quotation. I have it here, the book on my computer, right? That what he's referring to is the utter inconceivable astronomical remoteness that mutations could build the genome of the entire animal in 13.7 billion years, okay? But the fact of the matter is this, he said it's vanishingly small, which is a statistic or probabilistic assessment of its likelihood. But you just said you can't make a probabilistic or statistical evaluation of it. And you said it was garbage. But Dr. Eugene Koonin, one of the world's most renowned experts on microbiology as to evolution, did give a probabilistic assessment of it in a one-off universe and said it's vanishingly small. So your argument that what I said is garbage, your argument is garbage by virtue of Dr. Eugene Koonin.
All right, so Phoenix, do you have a response for that? I'll give you at least, like, if you want to respond for like 1 to 2 minutes, that's fine. Or if you want a question or no response, go ahead.
So I've already Googled the guy. Creationists quote mine all the time, but I don't mind researching this one-off example. I can certainly explain. Would you like to just answer my hypothetical? Like the red ball from a dark room.
Rebuttal, please.
Sorry, what?
Give a rebuttal, please.
Yeah, did you not just hear me?
That's not a rebuttal.
I said, would you like to answer my question about the red ball from the dark room? Right?
Dr. Eugene Koonin, who's a world-renowned expert on evolution and microbiology, he said it's vanishingly small. So he's giving it a statement.
I don't care what your quote mine of this guy is.
Okay, so wait. So how about, I think what I'm getting from Darth is that he did respond to you, and maybe you're not really like his response. Yeah. Maybe that he's saying that is what his rebuttal
was. There he's quote mined.
So yeah, so I guess if you have a rebuttal of
that's a typical tactic that when you quote somebody who is pro evolution and you cite something that supports what you're saying, rather than give a rebuttal, you say, "Oh, it's quote mined." You didn't demonstrate in the least that it was quote mined, did you?
Okay, so how about try to respond? Maybe if you would something like do you have 1 minute, or do you want to ask him something, or what?
Yeah. Did you determine that I quote mined?
I told you I would research it. I'm not gonna do it
No,
right now.
Well, let Phoenix hold on. Let Phoenix respond somehow, whether it be by question or by a rebuttal or something.
Okay. I bring you a red ball out of a dark room that you don't have access to. What are the odds that I can bring you another red ball?
You're just repeating yourself.
Yeah.
You're repeating yourself. Now, do you believe in evolution?
Did you? I know that wasn't an answer to my question because that wasn't a 0 through
No,
100%.
you're repeating the same thing you said before. And
Yeah,
I
so let's
because
just
you
move
don't
on.
understand
I
probability.
rebutted your analogy by directly citing one of the world's top experts on evolution and microbiology and its statistical chances. He asserted that in a one-off universe, statistically or probabilistically, evolution happening is vanishingly small. You said any probabilistic assessment is garbage. So your statement applies to Dr. Eugene Koonen's probabilistic assessment that it's garbage.
Do you know that if you don't understand probability, you're not going to understand what Kuhn was talking about?
Okay, yeah, you're gonna play that game now. Tell me. Okay, so tell me your strongest evidentiary support that evolution is true.
What did that have to do with my question? Do you need it a third time?
Okay,
Yeah, but I think that a question though. But hold on. No. I don't think that was really an honest question though, Felix. You're asking him like, oh, does he really understand something? I don't know if that's really going to help the conversation. So Darth, maybe go on with your question.
This is the only thing of his entire spiel I knew I could correct in less than a minute.
No, all you're simply doing is you're appealing to an analogy. Why did Dr. Eugene Koonen assert several times?
I'm going to start with a simpler example. If I toss a fair coin, what are the odds that it lands on one side?
Hey, wait. Okay, hold on, Phoenix. It seems like he's asking you like, why is Eugene wrong? Like, why? Like, it seems like you were contending that this isn't. Yeah.
Vanishingly small in a one-off universe.
Who muted him?
So, yeah, if he's not going to answer my questions about probability, fine. Why are you interrupting me?
Dude, why are you like moaning at the end of like your sentences?
This guy's a troll.
This is what they do. Okay, they just like to play the bickering game. This is what young males do on Discord. Okay. Yeah.
So
Give me
we
your
can't
strongest evidentiary support that evolution.
Darth, your mic is breaking up a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, my hand was covering. Yeah, give me your strongest piece of evidentiary support that evolution is true. Love to hear it.
Go, dude.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to engage in anything else until he understands this point.
I just proved my point. You don't know what you're talking about. We can calculate. If I give you a trillion, do you think that there's a trillion squared Earth-like planets?
Well, I don't know if he wants to engage.
Sergeant, I'm not going to do this. Can I explain why before I'm muted again? Just real quick.
No, he doesn't want to engage, and now he just.
I don't know if we could. I don't see us really getting off the ground.
The fact of the matter is, if you had a trillion, no astronomer in the world believes that there are a trillion squared Earth-like planets. Even if there were a trillion squared Earth-like planets, that would be 10 to the power of 24 zeros. Even if you mutated on each of those planets for 13.7 billion years, that wouldn't be enough time and trials for mutations to code for even a handful, 2 or 3 rudimentary proteins that are about 100 amino acids long. Hey, Phoenix, I'm going to ask you a very simple question.
Is it going to be simpler than my question to you?
Yeah, hey, Phoenix, this is why I disdain talking with young males, because you're just so damn argumentative and smug. Now, I'm going to ask you a very simple question.
Yeah, we talk a lot.
What are the odds of mutations producing the precise linear sequence of a rudimentary protein that has 100 amino acids in it? What would the odds of that be? I'll make it simple for you. What would be the odds of mutations producing one coding sequence representing one amino acid?
Yeah, I think my coin toss question was easier, but anyway, I
He's not
promise that I
answering.
will.
I asked you a fucking
Well,
question. Do you know the answer to it? It's a very simple biological question. If mutations occur to code for a single amino acid, okay, what are the odds that it will be correct in a given functional sequence? We can know this with absolute mathematical certainty in biology. What are the odds?
Yeah, I'm not going to engage with this.
Yeah,
I'll
of
look up
course
his
you're
quote
not.
mine.
Yeah, because you've just been outclassed, okay, and out-educated. The odds are, you ready for it? The odds are 1 in 20 because there's only 20 amino acids. So if you have mutations of 3 nucleotides, which would represent a codon, and a codon represents 1 amino acid, okay, if you have 3 mutations, okay, you have a 1 in 20 chance that it will represent any one of 20 amino acids that is used in biology. So the second codon after the first would be a 1 in 400 chance. 1 in 20 times 1 in 20 is 1 in 400. Now, does anyone know what you call the growth when the improbability grows? It's called exponential growth. Okay?
Oh.
Now, so that means that in biology, okay, when you code for proteins and other highly complex regulatory regulatory functions in biology for systems, okay, these are in a linear molecular coding sequence. The order is critical to their functionality, okay? There's a very low tolerance level for error, okay? Now, so for one protein that's 100 amino acids long, which most proteins are several hundred amino acids long, it's 1 in 10 followed by 100 zeros. That's not a stat that anybody can disagree with, okay? So if you throw a trillion squared Earth-like planets at it, that's 10 to the power of 24 zeros. Now let's double the number of zeros, okay? Factoring in 13.7 billion years, okay? So we're going to double the number of zeros representing the number of trials to 10 followed by 50 zeros. That's the number of trials that you could have. If you throw that number of trials at one rudimentary protein, you're still left with 1 in 10 followed by 50 zeros. That's for a single rudimentary protein, okay? So the point is we can do the statistics, okay? And he's bullshitting when he says we can't do the probabilities, because if you couldn't do a probabilistic assessment at all, then Dr. Eugene Koonin would not have written what he wrote. And he wouldn't have opted in the back of his book to advocate for a multiverse in order to get out of this statistical dilemma. See, when you can't debate, you filibuster and you bluff.
Should I start a countdown until I'm muted again to protect you, or?
How about I kind of want to give you a response, but we have to I definitely don't want you to go back down the same road. If you could respond in a different way to address what he's saying, opposed to what you kept trying to do, that may help the conversation move forward.
I already promised I would investigate the Koonin. Are you quoting The Logic of Chance, the Nature and Origin of Biological Evolution?
The Logic of Chance by Dr. Eugene Koonin.
Yeah.
I have it right on my computer here.
Yep. And you probably don't get it, but I'll look at it.
Yeah. Are you an atheist?
So how about this? If that's the case, that what he's saying is what Koonin is representing, what would you have to say about that?
It's hard for me to understand what he's trying to get at. If his interpretation is even remotely right, but that's usually the case.
Yeah, verbal smoke and mirrors here. He's not really responding. Okay.
Responding
This
to
is
what?
this is a little game that people play when they don't know what they're talking about, but they don't like what they're hearing. They go,
Do you want me to go
"Oh,
read the whole book?
really can't assess any probabilities. We just don't know." That's simply false because we know what the genome looks like among humans. We know what the genome looks like in microorganisms. We know that what the kind of coding sequences there are in a linear molecular sequence in the double helix DNA. Okay, we know what the complexities are there. Okay.
Well, how about this, Phoenix? Would there be any way that you can like defend a potential multiverse? Like, could you maybe grant what he's saying and then address it, or would you rather not because you just
And that because then he'll be conceding
So
Dr. Eugene Koonen's
I'm
point.
sorry. Apparently
And
he knew my answer before I did. Go ahead.
go ahead, respond, Phoenix.
So what people need to understand is that in general, my understanding of science, and I'm not a scientist, is that I've never heard the idea of multiple universes arising in the context he is like from a biological perspective. It only arises in two places I know of in physics, which is basically the multiverse, which is an explanation of like some of the math concerning like a unification of quantum mechanics and gravity. So that's the multiverse, and then many worlds hypothesis, which is
no,
different, is not quite the
it is
multiverse,
outright false.
but it's a I'm sorry, what?
The unification, the attempt at unification of quantum mechanics and gravity has nothing to do with the concepts of multiverses. What the hell are you even talking about?
Sorry, I didn't know that you were a physicist. Are you
Where
a
did you get?
physicist?
Could you direct me to a link that says the unification of quantum theory, quantum mechanics, along with the gravitational theory, is about multiverses? Could you provide me with a link to that?
Well,
You could probably just go
maybe you could
watch.
do,
Go
maybe you
ahead.
could, but were you saying
You
that
just
you were,
started that.
yeah. So, but you did say it seemed like he prefaced it with he what doesn't isn't too sure, but his understanding of X, Y, and Z is this. So maybe then you could give your correction
Oh,
on what his understanding is,
the
Darth.
reason why multiverses are being postulated now in the 21st century and in the latter part of the 20th century is because in the mid 20th century there was the discovery of dozens of cosmological constants, each of which are discrete. And each of them have such an astronomical narrow parameter that if they were altered in terms of their value ever so slightly, life would not be permissible anywhere in the universe. So they had to give an account of this. Now you can see this in a short video with Dr. Leonard Susskind, okay, about is the universe fine-tuned, right? Leonard Susskind is an atheist. He's a world-renowned physicist in the class of Stephen Hawking, and he says, well, we can either decide that um, that there is it happened by chance, or that it's designed, or that we'll discover what the mechanism later on is. Okay, and he says no one wants to believe it's chance. That's ridiculous. He says, but we'll discover it one day, just like we discovered evolution. Okay, that's where the idea of multiverses came in. Multiverse did not come in because of an attempt of a unification of quantum mechanics and gravitational theory.
So anybody interested, you'd actually be way better off watching a debate between Sean Carroll and William Lane Craig. Actually have an amazing debate on this topic.
Yeah, I've seen it.
You'd be better off actually going and watching that debate than listening to us too.
Yeah, well, I've watched it. I'm not impressed by Sean Carroll.
Right.
So, curious, are you an atheist? Is that what you believe in evolution?
Sorry, what?
I said, are you an atheist? Is that why you believe in evolution?
No.
Okay, then what central evidentiary support do you have that you believe in evolution?
Oh, yeah. I'm not going to engage that.
Yeah, see, here we go. Bark, 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 bark.
I'm sorry, because you keep determining. How old are you? I'm just
Yeah,
curious.
I'm old enough to be your grandfather. That's how old I am.
And you just did what? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good on that note. That's perfect.
Yeah. You're backing out because you wanted to sound like you really knew what you're talking about stats. But I just showed you why you're wrong, because Dr. Eugene Koonin is a far more of a scholar when it comes to mathematics,
You didn't
microbiology.
answer a single probabilistic question I gave you.
Okay, no, sir. Okay, we're going to play this little game where you ignore everything I'm saying, and then all you just simply do is you're appealing to an analogy. Dr. Eugene Koonin said he gave a probabilistic assessment of evolution happening in a one-off universe. That is a fact in the book. But you said we can't make a probabilistic assessment. But Dr. Eugene Koonin did.
Uh-huh.
Uh-huh. And all you did was going, creation is only quote mine.
Good Lord, you're making this better. Like,
Why?
I was satisfied before, but you're just, this is great.
Yeah.
At least make an argument, Phoenix. What do you do?
Go.
Yeah, I want to say one thing to Darth Dawkins, because I'll probably never talk to him again. Hey, motherfucker, go fuck yourself, man.
I'm sorry I didn't get to that quicker. I'm kind of slow on it.
I don't know how.
Darth, your mic is like breaking up.
Okay, no, I aggressively go after people who come across haughty and arrogant on their microphones, and they pretend like they're knowledgeable, but then when they start to be questioned, they fold like cheap cameras, like, oh, I don't want to talk to you, you're a meanie. That's a tactic I've heard many times before.
Yeah, this guy folded pretty quickly.
Yeah, you said we can't make a probabilistic assessment, and yet Dr. Eugene Koonin did. And by the way, if he didn't propose a probabilistic assessment, i.e., that it's a evolution happening through mutations in a one-off universe, why in the world would he be introducing in the appendix of his book talking about many worlds in one, a multiverse theory? Why would he be introducing that? Well, when you actually read that portion of the book, okay, when you read that section, is because the presentation of the many worlds in one, MWO, or mega or multiverse theory, is to solve the probabilistic problem. Yet this smarty pants Phoenix says, oh, you can't make a probabilistic assessment. Well, then why would Dr. Eugene Koonin be introducing many worlds in one theory? Why did he introduce it if he's not making a probabilistic assessment? This is the problem with young males who shoot their mouth off on Discord, and they pretend like they're knowledgeable when they're not.
Okay, so I'm just interested. I think you've explained this before. It takes me a couple times for them to sink in, but what is the entailment there? Like, what is the implication that if that is the case, that it's a multiverse, then what are some of the problems with that?
I'm not sure what you mean by the question.
Like if you're saying that, it's likely there's probabilistically a multiverse scenario. Why is that something they don't want?
Because many worlds in one, or the multiverse theory, it's not science. Okay, if we're going to go by many of the common definitions, although there's not strictly any one settled definition of science. Okay. Now, the issue is my position is not evolution can't happen because it's so improbable. The issue is most people think that the probabilistic problem of mutations is simply solved by deep time and trials. Okay? They think that, see, from Darwin's point of view, millions and billions of years was an unimaginable number of time. But he didn't know about the DNA double helix. He didn't know about the quantification of genetic information in that linear sequence. But we do know about it, okay? And this presents a massive problem to the amount of time that they think that they have. Okay? Because even if the universe were vastly larger than we imagine, and you throw out a trillion squared Earth-like planets, not a trillion planets, a trillion squared, a trillion times a trillion, that number of trials wouldn't extricate you. Okay? Just think, here's a simple way to understand it. Why do you think they tell you when you create a password to create it longer rather than shorter? Why do you think they tell you to introduce what do they call it? Alternate characters, okay? Non-alphanumeric characters, okay? Why do you think we now have even two-factor authentication? Because this raises the improbability that someone's going to crack it, right, without using social engineering, to such astronomical levels that it becomes effectively zero to be able to crack it. Okay? But all of those types of passwords that you can imagine pale in comparison to the complexity and the length that is in the DNA double helix within the animal kingdom. But you see, people going through school in the world, okay, they're not educated about this. They're brainwashed saying, oh, yeah, it's complex, but you know what? Given a lot of time, these fortuitous mutations accrue, and the ones that accrue that provide for an increase of fitness, they survive and live on to live another day. But they never go into the actual specific details of the genetic code and the probabilities that are involved. It's completely whitewashed and ignored. It's like the fossil record, okay? I could read you a quote right now from Dr. Eugene Koonin. He is an avowed evolutionist, and he says, and he cites top other paleontologists in the world, that the fossil record does not support Darwinian gradualism, that the fossil record is extremely problematic for Darwinian gradualism. Okay, then this is an evolutionist. Okay, this is not quote mining. The fossil record doesn't support Darwinian gradualism. The genetic code is so vastly long and complex. The idea of chance in deep time producing this is absurd. Okay. And why do people believing it? Because they don't want to acknowledge God as their creator. That's
Amen.
why.
That makes a lot of sense. That is
Here's another point. We've had genetic information supposedly for billions of years, all this time, and evolution didn't start again. Why not? All the materials are there.
Oh, here's another problem. Okay, genetic entropy. Okay, if evolution were true, there would be such a massive amount of genetic entropy. We wouldn't see life as we know it today. Okay, that's another problem. See, people don't understand. They want to think, well, it's science. Well, science has been wrong in the past. Okay. Look, does many people buy into the standard model, Big Bang cosmology. Do you know now new observation by the James Webb Space Telescope of distant galaxies that have never been seen before, even by the Hubble Space Telescope, that are so far out? Okay, this poses a huge problem to the defense of the standard model. Okay. People see groupthink is a powerful means of getting people to think something. Okay.
so basically just like with everything else, it leaves the atheist in a position of absurdity.
All right, here's a quote from Richard Dawkins, and no, it's not a quote line, okay? Richard Dawkins, I believe it's from The Blind Watchmaker, and if it's not in there, it's the book from East of Eden. And I'm gonna paraphrase him, but it's almost verbatim. He said, before Darwin, that is the Darwinian theory of evolution, atheism was inconceivable. Okay? But with Darwin, or the Darwinian notion of biological evolution, he says this has provided atheists with intellectual fulfillment. So when you have people that have an ideology of God denialism, okay, and somebody like me comes along and poses a serious threat, okay, in a why are you laughing? Would you like to give me a rebuttal that I didn't, what I asserted is a serious threat to the theory of evolution? You want to give me a rebuttal? Oh, okay. So you're a little fag male on Discord trolling when you can't stand up like a little man, can you? Okay. So Richard Dawkins stated that atheists have found intellectual fulfillment.
Please don't use slurs.
Evolution. Okay. Why would Richard Dawkins says that atheists found intellectual fulfillment? Because now they had a seemingly plausible scientific explanation where they don't have to acknowledge God as their creator. That's why they staunchly defend evolution, and because they don't want to conceive that some guy on the internet and other people who are outliers, okay, and say that evolution is a pathetic scientific theory, they don't want to believe all these scientists can be wrong. Well, if you study the history and philosophy of science, oh yes, they can.
Scientists are probably like some of the most incorrect people on Earth.
Do you know that corruption in science is every much a problem as it is in other fields of academia? Right? You see, the theory of evolution is their sacred cow. Because if the theory of evolution is seriously called into question,
Is he super quiet for anybody else?
Yeah, Darth, your mic kind of low.
okay, I said if we call into question the legitimacy of evolution as a serious scientific theory, okay, or a legitimate theory, then their attitude is, oops, God might exist.
And they can't have that.
Yeah. So what were the first words out of his mouth? Oh, he's gish galloping. Oh, he's quote mining. Oh, I haven't heard that response before. There was no rebuttal. And then he makes an appeal to an analogy of not being able to do statistics. And then I show him one of the foremost experts in the field, okay, Dr. Eugene Koonin, who does invoke a probabilistic assessment about evolution happening in a one-off universe. Oops.
So, Darth, when you say that, though, right, when you say a probabilistic, does that mean that he holds to that position, that he sees that position to be most likely true? Or is that a probabilistic, like where there is other ones as well?
Dr. Eugene Koonin, when you actually get a hold of the book, large parts of it are very difficult to go through. They're mind-boggling because of his vast expertise. But when you move on to the sections that are more readable to a general audience, including someone like myself, he makes himself very clear. He is a staunch evolutionist. He firmly believes in it. But he's one of these evolutionists that doesn't have to lie about certain basic facts when it comes to the theory of evolution, like it's the statistical odds of it happening, or about the nature of the fossil record actually supporting Darwinian gradualism. And the reason why he does so is because he has such confidence in evolution being true. He's not disturbed by these serious flaws because he believes it happened. But the fact of the matter is, this is a man with vast expertise in the subject who says, yeah, it's vanishingly small occurring in a one-off universe. But hey, what? We've got a solution to the problem. The many worlds in one theory. Okay?
So then, what is your main problem when it gets to that point? Are you just saying at that point it's absurd because of the,
Well,
what how it's described?
It's the same maneuver Muslims do when you show them categorical defeaters for Islam, like Muhammad didn't even correctly understand the doctrine of the Trinity in order to condemn it, that he made a historical blunder in his representation of the Trinity when he attempted to condemn it. Okay, so what do? They come up with an ad hoc excuse. What do scientists do when they study the seemingly evidence for the cosmological constants, where the idea that chance producing these dozens of astronomically narrowly defined constants, each of which are discrete, each of which without life would be permissible. So design is unthinkable to them, and they realize that there's no chance in appealing to chance. So they have to appeal to an ad hoc explanation. Okay? Now, even Dr. Leonard Susskind, and you can see him say this for yourself. Type in Dr. Leonard Susskind and where it says, is the universe fine-tuned? There's actually 2 videos on it. They're both short and they're easy to watch. And he says, he ridicules the idea that all of the cosmological constants would imply or indicate design. And he said, you know what? We'll discover one day what the mechanism is that produced the fine-tuning of the cosmological constants. Ready for this? Just like Darwin did. He used an analogy as though the theory of evolution was a discovery rather than a conjectural theoretical retrodiction. Okay, he goes, one day we'll discover what that mechanism is. Okay, it's because they don't want to acknowledge that these things powerfully point to design. Okay,
So would you say that evolution is contradictory to the like Christian account? Because I know the Catholics and the Anglicans would disagree.
well, I don't consider the Catholic Church an accurate representation of the gospel of Jesus Christ. I consider the Church of Rome, along with other groups, as cultic. But they've drunk the Kool-Aid too. The Catholic Church formally has accepted the theory of evolution, as well as many liberal and non-Bible believing denominations as well.
So yeah,
I believe it's a fulfillment of 2 Thessalonians chapter 2.
So basically, what is your stance on like people who think like that with the evolution is a part of the process and the way that they do? Whether they're Catholic or not. I mean, whether they're Catholic is not relevant.
It's a part of the worldwide deception. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, Paul says, and God will send a damning delusion to them who believe the lie, who receive not a love of the truth. Well, when you look up the word the lie, where else did Paul say that? Romans 1. What is the lie? The lie is abandoning and acknowledging God as creator and then worshiping the creation as that the creation itself is the source of your existence and not God. So,
yeah, I feel like his answer, his question is what if Christians, like, what if, like, so are you saying that you can't be a Christian if you believe in evolution to that extent?
I'm not saying that at all. You're a Christian is if you repent of your sins, realize you're under the wrath of God, and only by turning to Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior will God forgive your sins. Now,
You're starting to get quiet again, Darth.
Okay, so you could be a Christian and be saved from your sins, and because of your naivete, gullibility or lack of due diligence, be deceived that the theory of evolution is substantive when it really isn't. Okay. But the theory of evolution is utterly incompatible with the Bible. Okay. Now there are so-called professing Christians who say that it's not, like William Lane Craig and others. But I think he's full of crap on this issue. Okay. These are people who are compromisers. We shouldn't be surprised that people compromise and they capitulate to a modern consensus, one that's widespread. Okay.
So yeah, okay, I got it.
Jesus made himself very clear in Matthew 19. He said, "Do you not know that he, God, made them, Adam and Eve, in the beginning?" Now, if Adam and Eve were on the tail end of eons of time, right, it would make no sense to say they were in the beginning. Okay. But if Adam and Eve were made on the 6th day of a 1-week creation, and Jesus says they were made in the beginning, this is completely makes sense. This is what Jesus was referring to. But if you buy into this idea that because there's a widespread consensus, okay, because of the success of science giving us cell phones and putting a man on the moon, just because we have these great endeavors from science in curing certain diseases or whatever, it doesn't mean that our retrodictions about the past are as equally scientifically accurate. And this is what happens, that even really smart people can be gullible to their lack of due diligence in a specific area and be duped.
So if you were convinced of the universe and the Earth being older than the biblical account being taken literally, would that make you question your faith?
Given the biblical model, the Earth and the universe are not billions of years old. Okay. Now, the reason why people believe that is because they're told one belief after another that aren't necessarily true. They're told that it takes billions of years for light to come from the farthest stars to Earth. That's not necessarily true. The speed of light could be instantaneous outgoing, but on a return trip, it could be 600,000 kilometers per second. And if that were true, that when they measure light in a round trip experiment, which is the only way they can do it, then you divide that in half and you come up with 100,000 kilometers per second. Okay? Or how about this? We all know that we'll say, well, light travels at 300,000 kilometers per second in a vacuum. But if you send light through a medium, it will slow photons down. What if it's the case that photons emitting from stars is almost instantaneous, but when it passes through a medium, it slows down? What if it's the case that within our solar system, there is a medium that slows photons down that we don't know about? Okay. Now, so for anyone hear about the Higgs boson? The Higgs boson is considered to be an elementary particle along with the Higgs field it's considered to be strongly discovered. Well, what if it's the case that the Higgs field or some other quantum realm field impedes the speed of photons to 300,000 kilometers per second? But that in deep space, where there isn't such a quantum field, that light can travel at nearly instantaneous speed. But you see, this is not discussed as an alternate explanation. People think that the Big Bang is a discovery when it's only a model.
Well, so like I realize that you don't agree with it, but what I'm saying is, if it was proven to you that the Earth was, I don't know, however many billions of years old, would you say that you would have to reject the biblical account, or would you say that the biblical account is misunderstood?
Well, whatever is presented as supporting that would always be provisional. Nothing is proven in science. Is there anything that's been proven in science? Would you like to tell me that?
Not beyond a reasonable doubt. Yeah.
No. Well, reasonable doubt is a legal criterion, okay, not a scientific one, right?
I guess I would say no. Like nobody knows
So
anything in science.
all conclusions in science are provisional, always. Okay. And look, how about this? Okay, Neil deGrasse Tyson. Do you know who he is?
Yeah.
Okay, Neil deGrasse Tyson, who gets highly paid on lecture circuits, which is fine, shows up on a lot of talk shows, and he's asked frequently, what is the one of the most profound things that you could share with us, as a an astronomer? And he always says with a big smile on his face, "We're stardust." Right now, many people think that this is a scientific conclusion. It's not. It's a metaphysical conclusion, because he believes that the origin of the universe and the cosmos was purely materialistic and mechanistic rather than it was created by God. And so he believes that the higher elements in our bodies were forged in the furnaces of stars through stellar nucleosynthesis. And then when those stars explode and they reform into planet, poof, you have the higher elements. But that's not a scientific discovery or observation. Okay. So he's spouting metaphysics and a quasi materialism, but presenting it as science. See the problem? People have a hard time coming to grips when they're confronted right to the face that they have succumbed to a widespread groupthink deception. Okay? It's very difficult for people to get a grip on that. Do you know how many people I've asked, does the fossil record strongly support Darwinian gradualism? And do you know how many hundreds of people who have said, oh, yes, absolutely. Then I read to them a quotation from Dr. Eugene Koonin, where he recognized that the world's top paleontologists recognize that it doesn't. And then they don't want to believe that they've been deceived by their educational process or by documentaries that the fossil record strongly supports Darwinian gradualism when it doesn't. Okay, the proof that it doesn't is look this up. Okay, Dr. Stephen Jay Gould, one of the world's top paleontologists and experts on evolution until his untimely death in the 2000s, promoted a theory that is accepted by some paleontologists and not others, but it's not considered to be a crackpot theory, is that, well, evolution happened so fast, it didn't leave behind numerous transitional forms in the fossil record. Well, why would Dr. Stephen Jay Gould, who was an eminent paleontologist expert on evolution and not considered a crackpot, why would he promote this theory that a good number of other scientists embrace, if indeed the fossil record strongly provided evidentiary support for Darwinian gradualism? Well, the answer is because it doesn't. But people have been led to believe that it does. And they want to say to themselves, oh, I'm going to listen to some guy, some fast talker on Discord. Why should I believe this guy over all of these scientists in academia? Why? Because the facts speak for themselves. We don't find creatures in the fossil record halfway between one creature and another. We don't find half bats.
Are you still mainly on Discord, or Clubhouse, or are you back on Discord?
Both. I've been spending more time recently on Discord than Clubhouse, but I
Is like Tonlock and Matt still around?
yes, as far as I know, yeah.
I haven't. I used to argue with you a lot back when I was an atheist. I haven't seen you in a while though.
When you were an atheist,
Yeah, I've got saved this year.
okay. So, is there anyone in here who thinks that atheism is reasonable?
Such a funny question.
Yeah. Why is it funny?
It just is, because it's just not. That's because it's not reasonable, and that's why it is a.
Oh, they think it is.
That's a funny question.
Oh, Sergeant, you're in trouble with me now, but we'll talk later.
It isn't
okay.
reasonable. It isn't
It's okay.
reasonable. I
Yeah,
know has some decent conversation, but to me it isn't either. And I kind of have a different kind of spin on it. But yeah,
No,
Not
I
re-
got you. I was
not
about to get off.
reasonable.
I just wanted to know if he wanted a third attempt at my ball question
no,
or
no, no.
not.
Hold on. I wasn't here when you guys were debating the whole evolution thing, but Phoenix, I wanted to hear your viewpoint. But what was your rebuttal to the whole? The chances of evolution happening are so small, yet it happens. But what was that thing you said about red ball and the dark
He
room?
didn't give a rebuttal. He offered an analogy.
I can give it again, and because, like I said, I'm tired, but I can actually do it better than I did the first time if you want to hear it. We might have to
go ahead.
DM because I know Darth isn't interested, but
Yeah,
I can
Give a
give it to you.
rebuttal. Give an analogy.
yeah. So basically, that's what Darth is saying.
No answer.
What happened? He was giving an analogy and not really engaging with what Darth said. That's what Darth is saying, pretty much.
Yeah. So, what was that analogy?
Look,
Okay.
we don't have to know all the stats. We can throw literally an unimaginable number of time and trials at the theory of evolution, and it will still be astronomically remote. People don't understand the complexity of the DNA double helix. They don't understand how complex it is and how long it is.
Okay, so the analogy was, let's say that you are in let's say that you're in a place and you watch me come out of a dark room that you don't have access to, okay? And I bring you a red ball, okay? And I ask you the question, what is the well, first of all, I ask you the question, what is the probability that I could have brought you a red ball? And the second question is, what are the odds that I could bring you a red ball again?
So you're coming out of a dark room that I cannot see.
Correct.
Yeah, and you offer me a red ball, and you say, "What's the probability that you give me another red ball other than the one you're showing me?"
Right. So, well, it very much depends on how you ask the question, right? So the first question I said, and I was careful to phrase it this way, the first question was, what are the odds that I could have brought you a red ball?
Yeah, this is repeating the same thing all over again. You're missing the point. What are the odds that a mutation will produce a coding sequence for any amino acid? Can we know that? Yes or no?
Why do you expect an answer to your question if you won't
Hey,
answer
Phoenix,
me?
okay,
I'm just curious.
You are a dishonest little scumbag because we can determine with absolute mathematical precision what the odds are of a mutation will be within one of 20 amino acids.
I think you've heard it 5 times now. Would you like to hear it a 6th time?
Well,
Yeah, but wait, but Phoenix, I think he's saying though that what he's saying is even more complex than whatever you're proposing anyway, and that's and it's being addressed.
Phoenix,
It has to do with a fundamental misunderstanding of
evolution-
probability.
does
That's
evolution
all.
require?
And I'm trying to prove it.
Hey,
That's
Phoenix,
all.
does evolution require mutations to accrue and then survive through natural selection?
What I asked this question once.
Yeah,
I said, "Why
okay,
do you expect an answer if you won't answer me?"
okay. Look, this is what this little scumbag is doing. What all these scumbags do. He doesn't want to answer the question because it's going to expose his ignorance of the subject. He's trying to argue via analogy. But
That might be true for one of us.
We can determine with mathematical precision what the odds are at a mutational level that will produce certain coding sequences, such as coding for proteins. Okay, we can do this. We have the background information. Probabilistic assessment requires background information. True or false? See, no answer. He wants to act
Yeah,
smug.
but hold on.
Okay,
I wanna
does
I wanna
statistical
see.
and probabilistic assessment require background information?
I don't know if he really wants to engage with it. But would be
No, he
maybe
doesn't. He just wants to
yeah.
filibuster. Well, the answer is yes. Probabilistic assessment requires background
Sorry,
information.
did you just accuse me of
So,
filibustering?
so evolution, yeah, I did.
Do
Listen,
you
dude.
know what that word means?
What,
Okay,
you
hold on. I'd rather direct this
you're
to
just a
me.
fast talking, lying little scumbag. Okay.
How about this, Darth?
Not
How about
really.
me, Meyer? How about if you want to ask Darth a question? Would you have something you'd want to?
Let me just finish this point.
No.
here.
I just
Okay,
wanna.
go
I
ahead.
just wanna
He's
go.
simply ignoring what I'm saying, and he just keeps on repeating the same analogy. Here is the fact about biology. Okay, the DNA code, the double helix, was discovered in 1951-52 by.
All right, I'm
Moss
not
and
going to listen to this again. You guys have a good
studied
night.
it over 65 years. Okay, we are still trying to plumb the levels of complexity that the DNA codes for. We have unrooted some of the coding sequences, such as coding for proteins. Okay, we know that proteins are composed of chains of amino acids, and that within the DNA code, when it codes for proteins, okay, it requires what are called codons, which are triplets of nucleotides that are linear in sequence, and they're molecularly connected. Okay. Now, on the backbone of the double helix. Now, if there are random mutations of point mutations, okay, any point mutation of 3 mutations in the nucleotides will yield one of 20 arrangement of amino acids. Okay, just like if you pick it random from A to Z, you have a 1 in 26 chance of getting the letter Q. Okay, if you randomly mutate 3 nucleotides in the DNA code and in point mutations, you have a 1 in 20 chance of coding for one amino acid, followed by another coding sequence that would code for a second amino acid in a chain. Okay? So we can determine with mathematical precision what the odds are at that microbiological level. So he's bullshitting. Never once did he discuss about the molecular building blocks in the DNA code. All he wanted to do was talk about, this analogy about a dark room. Okay. Never once did he address the specifics of what I said. Okay. I got irritated, not because he disagreed, but because he was just outright deceptive. He'll make a great lawyer for the Democratic National Committee someday.
Yeah, is Phoenix still here?
And my position is not that evolution is so problem. What I'm saying is those who reason by probability will die by probability.
Yeah, but I think the point he was trying to get across is the probability of something happening is low. Like for example, with the red ball analogy, but the chances are low, but they're still there. Like they could happen.
You're okay. Then if you're going to reason that way, then you have no justification to believe in laws of nature, because after all, there's a chance that spontaneous occurrence could produce the appearance of regularity as opposed to the actuality of laws. There's still a chance, right?
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah. So if you live by probability, you're going to die by probability.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to be honest. This is also confusing to me.
Look, why is it that Dr. Eugene Koonin, a world-renowned expert on microbiology and evolution, why is it that he can be honest about the astronomical remoteness, improbability of mutations building the genome, but you get these schmucks on Discord who go, "Oh, it's really not that improbable"? Why in the world would Dr. Eugene Koonin advocate for many worlds in one theory, a megaverse, juxtaposed to solve the problem of evolution via mutations being vanishingly small. What is his answer? Oh, I'm quote mining.
Yeah, I've got to do some more reading on this.
If you just apply mathematical probability to these ideas put forth by atheists, you'd have to conclude it'll never happen. It's unreasonable to believe something like that. Far, far beyond unreasonable.
So, Mir, did you have any other questions? I know we were talking earlier. We had a pretty good conversation. Did you have any maybe questions you want to direct toward Darth, whether it be by this subject or something you were talking about earlier or whatever?
Actually, yeah, just one more question. Do you remember what we were talking about earlier before this whole probability thing about Muhammad making a mistake in the Quran saying that Christians worship Mary? So what were you saying about the four gods thing again?
Okay. In Surah 4 and 5, Muhammad attacks the doctrine of the Trinity and condemns it. It's very clear from the text. Now, in there, for him, Allah represents the same concept of the Father, so to speak, in Christianity.
Yeah.
He thought that the Christians were worshiping a collection of three gods: Allah, Jesus, and Mary. Right? We see this in three crystal clear verses in Surah 4, one in Surah 4 and two in Surah 5. Right?
Yeah.
Now, when you look at them individually and conjoined together, it presents a very clear picture as to what Muhammad was asserting. He was citing the Christians believing in three gods, Allah, Jesus, and Mary, and that he was condemning it. Now, this was a massive historical error. Nobody in the annals of church history advocated that the Trinity was Allah or the Father, Jesus, and Mary. Nobody. But that's what Muhammad thought, because Mary was referred to in the church creeds and probably repeated orally in front of Muhammad as Theotokos, the God bearer or the mother of God. Right? Now, the fact of the matter is, even if you agree or criticize the Catholics for their adulation and worship or even deifying Mary, the Orthodox Catholic position is that the Trinity is the Father, the Son, and the Spirit. So, in order to evade this historical blunder, the Muslims will say, well, Muhammad was just addressing that the Catholics were deifying Mary. Well, then, if that's the case, then we have four gods, not three, because in Surah 4 and 5, it says, say not three. Allah is not the third of three. Because then, if they're correct, that he was addressing the aberrant Catholics who were saying that Mary was a god along with Jesus and the Father, but then we have the Holy Spirit. So those are four gods, not three.
Yeah, but hold on. Was the Catholic Church around at that time?
Yes,
Absolutely.
Muhammad appeared in the 7th century.
So the point is here, Mir, is that the Quran is supposed to be like from Allah, right? It's like God breathed, like straight from Allah. And the point is that in the Quran, it seems to be the case that they have misrepresented the doctrine of the Trinity and attributed Mary to the Holy Ghost. So, like in the doctrine of the Trinity, we believe Father, Son, and Spirit, they are one. They're distinct, three distinct persons, one God, one being. So it wouldn't make sense. It's contradictory to say that the Quran is the word of Allah, the word of God, when it seems that they got the doctrine of the Trinity wrong. They think that it's Mary that is a part of the Trinity because of how much they Mary worship, and not the Holy Spirit.
Look, Jesus repeatedly predicted that he would be arrested and he would be crucified and that he would rise again from the dead. In the Quran, it says, oh, Jesus did not die. It was only made to appear that he died, contradicting Jesus' own words. okay, and the testimony of the apostles. So
Yeah,
what
and-
what do Muslims do? They go, oh, the Christians, they corrupted the Injil, they corrupted the text.
Yeah. So real quick, Mir, this is important because this is what we were talking about earlier when like you first came in. Was the main contradiction or the main thing you have a problem with? And I gave you the thing as far as the word of God being corrupted or whatever. But then Victor had said something about like workspace salvation. I'm Nephilim. Your mic's kind of. I'm gonna be like a workspace salvation. But then this is the other thing. Historically, we see that Jesus did die on the cross. So like Darth is saying right now, and like that goes in line with what I was saying earlier, is that they reject that he even died. So that it goes against history, it goes against the biblical account, and many other things that we talked about earlier.
Yeah, here's really simple. Okay,
But
Muslims
regarding
think and
that,
Muslims
yeah,
believe that Allah is perfect, but Allah cannot be perfect because he's a Unitarian God. There's Allah as a Unitarian God cannot actualize being maximally personal before creation because he can't actualize relationality, which is an aspect or an attribute of personhood. He can't actualize love to its fullest, which is other orientedness. But you know what they say? They go, oh, well, he loved himself. Okay. Well, if I loved myself my entire life, could it be said that I've actualized love to its fullest? No. So, I mean, Muhammad made numerous mistakes. Look, the cultural indoctrination is a powerful way of deceiving people. Okay, and that's why we see it's hard for people to get out of cults. Islam is just a big cult.
yeah, so you're saying. But regarding the Mary thing, there was actually a Christian movement in Arabia that actually worshipped Mary. So I think he might that particular
I gotta go. Maybe I'll be back later. But thanks for having me on.
yeah. So Sergeant, you there?
Yeah.
Yeah, so there was actually a Christian movement in Arabia that worshipped Mary. So maybe that verse in the Quran was referring to that. What are your thoughts on this?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Hold on. It's the Coleridgean Church or something. It's a movement that actually worshipped Mary.
Well, I'm not really sure what you're talking about, but as far as the whole Mary worship thing, I mean that's been a issue, I'd say, with the Catholic Church, just in general. So it would, make sense that they would have a misconception of what the Trinity is. But the point is, if this is Allah speaking and he's saying, no, it's not three, it's one or whatever, they had a misconception of what the doctrine of the Trinity is in their worship of Mary. And that's, that's part of the Catholic Church.